Being a cruiser means you get to work on your boats in exotic places. Sometimes it's never been truer than this experience here. Our first trip to the Bahamas. We've recovered from the grounding. We've got a plywood rudder. We've put up new dinghy davits. We put our wind generators back up. We're getting ready to sail to Nassau. Checking the boat out before we leave. And another problem occurs. Let me show you what we got. Our shift cable, this is the lever that shifts the transmission forward and reverse, has broken. Now, I replaced this 2 years ago. And if you look in there real close, I don't know how well you can see the end of the shift cable has broken loose from the yoke there. And I had to fabricate a special attachment bracket to install this. So now I got to take this apart, see what I can do to get the broken end out, see if I got a tap and die to fit that, adjust the length on the other end, and see if I can salvage this cable. If not, I do have a replacement. When I used my last spare on the throttle cable, since I've been here, I did buy a spare Morse cable that'll work for both. So let me get into this and see what we got. Well, the Carter key broke, but I've got more Carter keys, and it actually made getting it out a little easier. Now, to see what we got to do to get that pin out. The pin holding that yoke is froze. So what I'm going to do is remove the whole assembly by pulling this pivot pin here, and I should be able to lift this out. So let's try that next. Got it out. It's amazing what a punch and 4 pounds of persuasion will do to free another stuck pin. My dilemma is I got a little bit of interference getting that out. So I'm going to get the grinder out, shave that aluminum on the right side there, down a little bit where this will slide in and out easily. It's not going to affect the performance or use of the throttle. Let's make this fit a little better. Now we'll just break out this aluminum we've cut and get a little better access. There we go. It should come out of that hole. Cutting away the housing a little bit may not be the recommended way of getting this in and out, but instead of disassembling the whole pedestal, now I've made it more accessible for future. And it's not going to impinge upon its performance. You can see where the shift cables broke off in there. And this pin here is frozen in the yoke. I've got it freed up in the lever here, but let's get this apart. Look at that. Finally something going my way. The broken end of the shift cable is coming out of the yoke. So I can reuse this yoke. I probably got a spare. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I got a spare. But now it's just a matter of taking the shift cable loose, putting this back on, if there's enough threads, and adjusting the length of the shift cable to work. Boat yoga! Way back here over the engine is the shift cable, and I've got it loose, and I've got it out of the bracket that holds the jacket here. So let's go to the other end, but it feels stiff. I may end up having to replace it. So let's go get the other end free from its retaining bracket. This collar here has a dimple on it. I broke the bolts free, but these dimple engages with a groove in the cable. Now the new cable was different than the old cable because I replaced this 3 years ago, and I had to make a bracket to go over the cable to engage this to hold this end of the cable. There we go. She's free. And there you can see the dimple in this collar that engages a groove in the cable to hold this in. And see how much of it I can pull out. And you might be able to see the piece I made. I may not have to pull it out that far. You can get a better view. You can see where something froze up and the cable bent and broke at the rod end. But I'm having trouble getting it free. I may have to unload everything out of the steering compartment and get underneath there and see what's got her hung up and maybe replace the whole cable. There it is. I'm way back here underneath the deck of the helm. You can see where the shift cable goes in. I had to really stretch out to get to that U-bolt bracket there and get it loose from the cable. So now I gotta fish this cable out of here. And I'm gonna need both hands to do it. So let me crawl back out of here. I don't know, she's coming. She's a coming. Let's try it. Yeah, I'll need two hands. So we'll get her out and then we'll show her to you. Success! Right, Gordon? Yeah. We got the old cable out. Pull on that. It don't move. Push. She's froze up, and that's why she bent and broke. But now this is a collar I had to make because the diameter of this cable is much smaller than the original old 50-year-old cable. For some reason, it had a big knurled end. And I made this out of 2 pipe bushings and a nipple with a groove here for that button I showed you on that collar to engage. But now I've got 3 of these screws that I'm going to have to get my screw extractors to get out so I can slide this off and install it on the new cable. I had to use a screw extractor to get these set screws out. I drilled and tapped 3 of them to hold this in place and engage the groove, which you can see right there at the end. And I slide it up. You can see the groove right there. I've got 2 of them in. I'll put the 3rd one in, tighten it down, and then this cable's ready to reinstall. Bada bing! Got my collar back on. Got my ends on. Now I just got to feed this down from the steering pulpit all the way down through the steering compartment, all the way up to here, and hook it back to the transmission. All right, we start by feeding the new cable down through the tube at our Edson pulpit, all the way down through the deck on the port side. And then we got to crawl head first down the quarter bunk that I sleep in on the port side. Good thing I'm a caver, because then I got to fit my big tiny self through this gap, which you can see is not a lot of room, and had to reach all the way up there where that cable comes past that bracket. I'll have to go in there and put a nut back on that, and then it comes this way, and this is the motor for the water maker. If you remember that video, me installing that, it goes underneath that and then crosses over to starboard side. So let's go take a look there. Then let me crawl back into quarter berth for the starboard side. And this is where we keep our line stored, under the hatch from up top, so I can reach down and get them. And we come under the water maker, which you can see the water maker's there. And there we go. We've got it here. And it goes up. Now, shine the light through there to the transmission, and that's where we got to hook it up, but can't do it from here. I got to go back around to the front and go through the engine compartment. This is called boat yoga. Now I'm back out in the galley of the boat, crawl in here over top of the engine, because you know the transmission's on the back and I got to hook it to this lever, and you can see the new cable right there, but that'll take two hands and a lot of cussing, so let me turn the camera off and get that done. Alright, we got this end hooked up on the transmission. Let's get the other end hooked up. Alright, got the poppet hooked back up. Got my collar on, my homemade stop shift collar. Let's see how smooth it is. Look at that, nice and smooth. Forward, reverse, neutral. Now we'll start it up and see how she works. Let's give her a crank. Turn the key on. Hit the fuel pump. Whoops. Give her one more try. There we go. Running smooth. Forward. Yes. Neutral. Reverse. Here to change? Yeah. Neutral. Working as designed. This job is complete.